Amen. All right. Go ahead and get in your Bible to Proverbs chapter 24 again. Yeah, really, I would have been content to be done last week, but I will do anything I can if it's going to try to be a help to somebody. And so I think, when you've been around a biblical church for a while, you probably never hear somebody pick a verse and a subject and you say, wow, I've never heard any of that. Because probably if that was the case, something's wrong. I mean, the Bible says nothing new under the sun. And so, for a class like this, if you can just get a couple thoughts, get a couple of ideas that help you in some way, it will really be a success, at least in my mind anyway. We have a long time to work with our teenagers. We have them as a child. We have them as a teenager. The Lord knew we would be imperfect. He designed children to be resilient. He designed teenagers to be resilient. And so these goals that we've been talking about all along, we have to work on them, but none of us are going to perfectly get them together like we wish we would. And so really tonight, I have just answering a bunch of questions that you turned in. I want to make a couple points I didn't get to make last week just because I think they're helpful. And then if we get done early, if you want to ask anything else, I mean, that's up to you. I really want to help you. I'm no expert, per se. I mean, we did raise 3 kids. I was a teen leader for 20 years with, 150 kids in Sunday school every week in high school and junior high. And so I've seen a lot. And so I do want to help. Here's question 1. How do you get your older teen to clean their room, go to school, go to work? They claim no time to clean. Helping our teenagers learn to manage their time and live in a schedule. That's an important life lesson to be a productive adult. Kids and teenagers, they're all like experts at doing nothing for hours. And a little of that might be okay, but more than a little is really harmful, and especially the older they get. Remember, our goal is not childhood. Our goal is not fun, that we want our children to enjoy their teen and child years. Our goal is a functional adult, a productive adult with faith. And so I would just say, have something that you hold back until they do these things. In my opinion, now when we raised our kids, cell phones weren't a thing. Kids had pagers, and that's what they did at that time. But if I was raising my kids nowadays, I would take my child's phone at a certain time every night, and I would not give them back to them until the morning, and I wouldn't give it back until is your bed made, is your room picked up, and then give them their phone back. Now, you might not like that kind of stuff, and you say, well, they use their phone for an alarm clock. I'd spend $5 and get them an alarm clock. But you have to have something that you hold over their head, and that's what I would suggest. In our children's case, when they came home from school, we allowed them 15 minutes to just chill. And then at 15 minutes, television off, no gaming system, get your homework done. And no fun stuff until your homework's done. Again, you're teaching your children self-discipline, you're teaching them self-control, you're teaching them to live on a schedule. In your house, I suggest a place where, they can do their homework without distraction. And, I think it's healthy for your teenager to work 10 or 15 hours a week. In my opinion, when you start to get more like 20, I think that in most cases is destructive, just because you're not raising someone you're hoping whose lifetime career is going to be Wendy's. And so you want to have them to have a job so they can learn to work, but you also want to let them, enjoy where they are and do well in their school or acquiring their skill. Handle your 13-year-old and 19-year-old different. Question 2, how do I know the difference in a high-functioning autism and stubbornness? As a parent who is trying to raise your children right, and you're really informing yourself, you're going to have to make a lot of judgment calls. I mean, parenting is messy at times. And you're just taking, a lot of times you're taking your best guess at what's going on. I will say this, you know your child better than anyone else. I'll say this also, is that children with special needs, they still have a fallen nature, just like children with no special needs. And so every parent, to one degree or another, is going to battle stubbornness in their children. My personal experience with children with autism is they're extra stubborn. Our granddaughter Sadie, man, she's extra stubborn, and you're trying to figure out, is what she's doing because she's not capable of doing something different, or is she just being stubborn? I mean, deafness is not a symptom or a part of autism. She just doesn't turn her head, doesn't listen, acts like you're not talking. I mean, that's just her being stubborn. And you've got to learn those things, and you've got to face them, or you won't help your kid. I mean, remember, our goal as a parent, every kid's not going to be a brain surgeon. Every kid's not going to be a missionary. Our job as a parent is to find their gifts and do the best we can to help them become what they're designed to be. And that is not the same for everybody. Listen, unless something changes with my granddaughter, she's not going to be a college student. Unless something changes, she's not even going to have, a good use of the English language. Of course, you're praying for something to change, but it's our job to help her be the best she can be. And if you think because they have special needs they're not stubborn, you're not going to help them like you can. Most of the time, I would always assume direct disobedience is stubbornness rather than a disorder. Question 3, how do you handle conflicts between teens and their friends? Satan has a heyday in the church because some parents don't handle their children's conflict with their peers very well. Just mark it down. There will be problems. There will be problems. When we can't even get siblings to get along, it is unreasonable to expect that they're just going to get along without conflict in the school, on their sports teams, in the church. It's just not going to happen. And so what we need to do as a parent is recognize these situations for what they are. Why does God allow them? I believe God allows this stuff because those are the teachable moments for our kids. And so I would start there. Each one of those is an opportunity for you to teach them how to handle conflict better. The problem is a lot of adults don't handle conflict with other people very well. And so, you might need to learn right along with them sometimes. But that's where I would start. Understand, Sharon and I, we had 3 aggressive boys. They were strong-willed, every one of them. And so, we had conflict everywhere we were. At school, sports teams, amongst themselves, with friends, with acquaintances, with enemies. It's just the way it is. So what I'll do and tell you how we handle this. First thing is listen to what your child has to say, knowing they're only telling half the story that best excuses their role. I mean, you just need to accept. They say, oh, my child will never do. Yes. Just start there. The next thing we did is we did everything we could when this stuff came up to make it smaller in their mind rather than bigger. You say, what do you mean by that? You know, you would never hear come out of our mouth, I can't believe they did that again. You mean they did that again? That's crazy. Oh, that's so over the top. Just all that's doing is making whatever happened bigger. Now, I may have thought that. Whatever it did, it was in my mind. Listen, man, all kind of crazy stuff goes through my mind when stuff's going on. I'm sure I thought that, but remember, you don't help them making a bigger deal out of the situation. The vast majority of the time, we really just tried to focus on what they did to cause the situation and what they could do to respond to the situation. That's what we focused on. Teens working out things is always better than an adult getting involved. You can dislike this all you want, but whenever you get involved as a parent in a situation with when your teenage child is involved, and understand if whatever happened was really just, you know, a bunch of white noise to the teenagers, you getting involved is going to cause them to pull away from your child. It's just, you say, I don't like that. Well, you're dealing with immature human beings. It's just what they do. If you're getting your mom and dad involved over this small thing, I'm not messing with you. Now, on the other hand, if it's a big thing, it's the opposite way. If you don't get involved, they're like, man, how are you not involved in this? And so we tried to stay out of everything we could. You know, it's a life skill to be able to work out your own conflicts. And there's going to come a time in your child's life you're not going to be able to go in there and fix them. And so the better they learn to fix them, the better. I mean, man, we had problems before church. We had problems during church. We had problems after church. I mean, our church was just like this. After church, everybody go over in the gym and play. Randy kicked me in the stomach. Stop playing with Randy. Get out of here. Bring the temperature down. We would all the time remind them, hey, have you ever said something you shouldn't say? Yeah. Well, if you say something you shouldn't say, what would you like? Would you like justice or mercy? Mercy. Then maybe show some. You know, you've done this. Just be patient. Move on. Just lowering the temperature. Now, if what was going on actually seemed big or was persistent, depending where it was, if it was at a teen activity, I would privately, without going to my kid, go to the youth leader, hey, did you see anything? Could you keep an eye on this? My child doesn't know. Again, you're trying to let them feel like they're settling this all themselves. And you're trying to figure out what's really going on. I hope you understand that if you and I don't get the facts right, we're never going to deal with the situation right. And a kid's story is, at best, half the facts. If it wasn't at an activity, I mean, sometimes maybe we had stuff happen at other people's houses. You know, you go to the parent privately. Again, this is big stuff. Little stuff, just big stuff. You just go to the parent privately. Hey, what do you know about this? Did anything happen? Could you help me keep an eye on it? Again, it doesn't take a village to raise a child, but the better we understand what's going on, the better we can handle this stuff as a parent. Most people, unfortunately, in the church, they hear the half story from their child, and then they gossip to their best friend, and then their friend's friend about it, and it means Satan has a heyday. It's just terrible. It means it's just wrong. Getting along with other people, it's not easy. Most adults don't do well with it, even in the church. And so, if it goes on with adults, it's going to go on with teens and just be worse. Question 4, how do I handle dating? What is a good dating age? People in the Lord's church have a lot of different views about this. Now, like with our children, we did not want them in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship while they were still in high school. We wanted them, again, you do what you want, but I don't like the whole idea of being attached at the hip, you know, from 15 to 18. I think you just miss, again, not doing sinful things, just miss a season of life you don't ever get to pass through. And we wanted our boys to have friends who were girls. Now in our house, I mean, we had 3 boys and my wife. And my wife is a gentle version. If you look at the scale of womanhood, you know, emotionalism, flying off the handle, I mean, Sharon is over there in the chilled section. And so both of us, we wanted our boys to see what girls were like. You know, have friends who are girls. Learn what girls are like. Learn what you like in a girl. Learn what you don't like in a girl. You know, and if you're attached at the hip, you know, man, everybody's crazy jealous. You talk to them. I didn't even want that. And so we didn't have that. You say, well, I know such and so, and they met at 13, and they're still married now 40 years later. My sister's like that. But I don't think parenting based on the exception rather than the norm is a good idea. You know, if that happens, you know, you might have to figure out a way to work with it, but I would not be looking for that at all. Now, like our youth ministry, we had like a teen formal, a date night. We forced our boys to ask a girl. Say, why? Because it was a teen activity and they were not allowed to ever miss. Secondly, because I think it was good for them to be pushed out of their comfort zone, to buy a flower, get dressed up, have a formal thing, get your picture taken. I like that. Look, I'm trying to raise a functional adult. You know, I'm not going to turn them loose at 18 or 19 and know zero about a girl. I just don't think that's wise. You know, your child will pick who they spend their life with rather than you. And I've seen a lot of cases where parents feel like, oh, yeah, man, our kids are perfect together, and then the parents jam them together. My personal experience with that has not been very good. Now, I'm not saying it never works. My personal experience isn't good. Thankfully, all of our boys, whenever they had an actual serious girlfriend, which was after high school, they all came to us privately, and they said, what do you think of her? And he said, what did you do? I gave them always a nice version of honest. Now, if I had some huge concerns, I would have said that. But here's the thing, that when your kids start getting in serious relationships, you know they're your kid, and you see your kid's faults and this other kid's faults so clearly, and you watch as your child seems to be absolutely blinded by what's going on, just like you and I were. And, you know, it's a real struggle as a parent. My hands up, I had a lot of trouble with that. First serious girlfriend, I had a lot of trouble. I mean, Sharon is talking me off the ledge kind of trouble. And I'm really not wired like that, but man, I had real issues. And so, like I say, I gave them a nice, honest version. In other words, if this was real serious and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this might work out, you better be careful torpedoing it. Because I've seen a lot of lifelong relationships ended because of that. You know, I don't know if I should say that. A lot of times girls have a lot of trouble forgiving you trying to break them up. I mean, and I've seen it never get fixed. And so, again, I might seem like I'm not a dope, and so I never, if I thought this might happen, and you can tell them, don't tell him what I said, don't tell her what I said. I mean, that's not the way they roll. You just better be careful. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Question number 5. If we let our kids work a job, it's another thing that cuts into family time should they work. One of the difficult transitions as our kids get older is changing the way we think about family time. Family time is much easier and straightforward when our kids are young, and obviously you should plan it regularly. But it's normal and healthy for family time to change as our older teens begin to work. They can become committed to teen ministry. They play sports. They have more demanding schoolwork. They have a relationship with friends. And honestly, this is a tough transition on parents. Much tougher on parents than it is on our teenagers. And here's why. It is the beginning of you and I trusting that what we taught them is going to come out in their life. And that's a tough transition, to trust that you've prayed, you've really done reasonably all that a parent can do, and you're just trusting God with it. It's a tough transition. I would never recommend giving total freedom to an older teen under your roof, but you should give them more and more freedom as they embrace more and more responsibility and resist any tendency for them to remain children. It's not easy. Here's the ideal. Do not treat your child any younger than they are, and do not treat them any older than they are. And depending on the parent and where the kid is in the pecking order of your house, as far as birth order, that, changes around. I do think, even older teens, you should have them involved in some family time. Just expect less and less of it, even though it hurts us for a season. I've got some more questions. I want to teach a couple things, sort of finish up last week, and then I'll just launch into the other questions you turn in. If you remember, last week we started talking about a teenager and helping them prepare for their future. Remember, we've got those 7 goals, and we're going to have to make them happen on purpose. And some of the things that a teenager needs, they don't want. And they're difficult on us and them now. Teenagers are naturally short-sighted. They're not dumb. They're naturally short-sighted. Just go back in your own mind. Think about the dumb things you did. We didn't do them because we were dumb. We did them because we were short-sighted. And so that's a part of our job as a parent of a teenager, to help them to begin to look at a longer-term view. Peter said in 1 Peter 4:17, judgment must begin at the house of God, and if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel? I mean, thinking about this issue, what shall the end be? We think about that as a parent. Most teenagers aren't thinking about how it's going to end, whatever it is that they're going to do. And that's our job. And in Proverbs 24:27, where we were last week, it says, prepare thy work without, that means outside, make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. That key word there, afterwards. In other words, that's a long-term view. You're better to stay in a tent, clear your land, plant your field, and then build your house, instead of building your house and just living with not having any cleared fields or any crops or anything like that. It's a long-term outlook. That's a part of being wise. And so last week we we had a proverb for each of them. We talked about ways to help our teenagers be better prepared for the future. We said change how we handle them and the consequences as they get older. We said teach our children about sex instead of letting them learn it on the street. We said help them find their natural and spiritual gifts so they can find their place in society and the Lord's church. And then we close with help them learn to manage and handle their money. That's what we talked about last week. This week, what I kind of want to do, if you just look over at Proverbs 27:9, says, ointment and perfume rejoice the heart. So does the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. And what I want to do for the last few minutes that we have is, just as your friend, sit across the table and give you some hearty counsel. Take it or leave it. Just take it or leave it. You make your own decisions. I am not your enemy. Listen, God chose us and made us parents in a day that is obviously complex and dangerous. And we don't get any do-overs. Now, I don't know how conscious you are of that. When I was a parent, that was something that really motivated me. Again, maybe I'm crazy, but that really motivated me. I've started reading parenting books, before Wally was out of the womb, because I felt like there's a lot of ways I wasn't raised right. And so I felt like when I was reading them books, I was sort of re-raising myself. And I just was constantly asking, people that I consider to be godly people with children older than mine who I thought were doing a good job, just asking them questions. And so I just want to sit across the table from you and give you a couple more things to help them prepare for the future. Here's number 5. I gave you 4 last week. Force them to learn the practical aspects of taking care of themselves and having a home. Now, this is hard on you short term because it's easier to do things yourself. But long term, it's good for them. Boys and girls both need to learn to cook, do their own laundry, do dishes, do basic service on their car, clean up after themselves, clean the house. Any kind of knowledge you give them about working around the house, that's helpful for their future. Now, most teenagers won't appreciate you making them do these things. They would much prefer, or depending on the kid, some of these things. Others they might be okay with. Listen, most teenagers would just prefer you do them for them. But remember, you're trying to help them in their marriage. Most wives, if they don't have children, when they get married, they're going to be working. In fact, if they come to me for premarital counseling, I will tell them, you should both be working. And then when you have kids, you two decide whether you want the mom to keep working or staying home. That's up to you. But if that's what you want, you better start preparing financially for that now. But what that means is, and you may disagree with this, but I don't like this whole idea where the husband and wife work 45 hours a week. The husband comes home and sits in the chair, and then the wife does everything around that we would consider a traditional wife work while he sits there. I don't like that. I think those tasks should be divided up when you're both working full time. And so your kid needs to know how to do this stuff. How will your son ever appreciate a wife who does these things for him if he's never done them for himself? Will it help or hurt their budget someday if they need to eat out all the time because nobody can cook? Listen, I deal with people all the time. They're married, they're going through problems, and I'm in conversations like this. I'm amazed at young adults who start marriage. They can't cook, clean, do their own laundry, or take care of their own yard. We made our boys basically keep their room clean. It wasn't like a military barracks or anything. And honestly, what I did is I cut a hole in the floor in the closet to our basement where the washer and dryer were, and they had to get their clothes down that hole for their mother to do them, and then when they graduated from high school, they were all required to do their own laundry. Now, probably Sharon cheated some, If you know her, that's kind of the way she rolls. But they knew how to do their own laundry. They knew how to cook. They knew how to do dishes. It's really, really important. And listen, nowadays, again, I mean, there's women who can't cook. And I'm like, your mom's a great cook. Oh, she never let me cook. Please don't do that. I mean, listen, remember, your goal is not just to take care of them. Your goal is to prepare them for life. Whenever I was doing anything in the yard or around the house, I made somebody work with me. Now, nobody wanted to. Again, you do whatever you want. We played paper, rocks, and scissors. Well, we would always, because there's three, we'd play odd man. You know, you just go, and then you put a 2 or a 1, and then whoever's odd, lose. And if you lost, you had to work with me. And so you basically, what you're doing is you're forcing them to learn how to take care of their car, how to take care of the lawnmower, how to do stuff around the house. Help them. Expect pushback. And resist the temptation to take the easy path of doing it for them. Remember, we're preparing them for the future. Now, I mean, I'm not like Jeremy or Ryan, who are super good with their hands. I mean, pretty much everything I taught my kids around the house working with their hands was, at best, very basic. I don't have their skills. But I taught them what I know, which end of the hammer to hold. You know, this is a screwdriver, this is a Phillips. You know, just taught them the basics. And honestly, my wife for a long time was as good at that stuff as I was. And when our boys were maybe 9 or 10, I really got under conviction about it. You know, she's hanging the pictures and all that. And I'm like, man, this ain't right. And I repented. Because it's important. Here's number 6. Work with them on their relationship and communication skills. You say, what do you mean? I mean, teach them to always answer when someone speaks to them. I know this has never happened in your house, but like our boys were all upstairs, and if I was at the bottom of the steps, I'd say, hey, it's dinner time. I don't hear a word. Not a word. Man, I expect a holy grunt. I mean, okay. You know, I don't need a dissertation. And so, I mean, I'm up the steps. Hey, when I talk to you, you answer me. That's being polite. It's being respectful. I abhor this cultural norm today where you text somebody and you can even text them a question and it's acceptable to not respond. I mean, that is rude. That is disrespectful. That is going to cause them problems in a relationship. Teach them to respond. Man, if you text me and you don't get a smiley face or praying hands or a thumbs up or the letter K, I did not get your text. And everybody that's close to me knows that. Because that's respectful. Teach your kids. Remember, you're helping them in their marriage. And if they can't communicate, if their spouse asks them something and they don't bother to answer, listen, some people might come unglued. Teach them when they get older and require them to tell you where they're going and when they'll be home. Now, again, every house is different. In our case, Wally went to college locally. Josh left home at 18. And he lived in Louisville for 4 years and then in California for a year at Bible college. And Caleb, he was in Louisville for a year, and then he was back. And then Josh, when he graduated, he was back for a while, and then he bought a house. And then Wall was living with him and paying him rent till he got married. And then Caleb was there, And then we had Caleb and Sarah live with us for the first 15 months of their marriage. I mean, so I had people in my house into their mid-20s. Josh probably got out first at 23. Well, I was probably 25. And so I'm dealing with adults. It is a part of teaching them to be a productive family member. Where are you going? When are you going to be home? To me, it's not permission. They're an adult. It's respect. And then I treat them the same way. Hey, your mother and I, we're going here. This is when we plan to be home. And then if we were going to be late, I would text them and say, hey, we're running late. This is when I think we'll be home. So you don't owe them anything. You need to change your mindset. This is a show of respect. When Caleb and Sarah were going to move in with us, I said, listen, if you're thinking about this, we'll have a meeting. Well, actually, I don't know if I should say that. I will say it. Relationships go through a maturing process. And once a relationship has gotten so far, it's one of those things that, well, they're either going to do something that's wrong or they need to get married. And Sharon and I could see this was happening with Caleb and Sarah. Neither one of them were done with school. And so we went to them and said, hey, listen, we see how this is going. We don't want you to do anything wrong, and I know you don't want to do anything wrong. Why don't you pray and talk about it? And if you guys want to get married and live upstate and live here, you get back to us and we'll sit down and talk about how that would work, what that would look like. Well, they got back with us, and to their credit, they wanted to be morally pure. Praise the Lord. And so we sat down and we talked about, okay, bathrooms, groceries, boundaries, expectations for work. We talked about communication. I mean, hey, you know, when you're going to be gone, tell us where you're going. Tell us when you're going to be home. And Caleb knew better than to say, what do you mean I'm an adult and I'm married? You know, he understood by that time. This is a show of respect. This is not me wanting to give permission. Teach them that. Remember, you're trying to help the early years of their marriage be better. You're helping. This is a long-term view. Now, you all may think I'm crazy, but I'm just telling you, this stuff hurts relationships. Here's 7, the last thing for helping them in their future. Keep finding reasons to spend time with them as adults. They're going to be busy. It's okay. They're going to make less effort than you. It's okay. Somebody's got to be mature. And it's not likely to be them. You know what I found once our kids became adults, the best way to get them to spend time with me was to buy their lunch. Take them to dinner. You say, well, it shouldn't cost me money to spend time with my kids. Listen, grow up. You're right, it shouldn't. But you know what? They're just as immature as you and I were when we were that age. And it's our job to have the big boy pants on, or big boy skirt, as some cases may be. We need practice as they get older, treating them less like a child. See, all we do as a parent, all we know them as a child. And so this transition to them being adult is really, really hard on us. And they're going to need some practice changing their relationship with you, because you changed from being their authority to their peer. Now, hopefully, an honored peer, but they have to choose that, not you. And just mark it down. And I know I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you prepare yourself for a season when they don't seem to be concerned about time with you at all. Maybe it shouldn't be like this, But honestly, my observation would be they're proving to themselves they're independent from you, and they're proving to you that they're independent from you. And then once in their own mind they've proven that, it'll all come back around. And I'm old enough now to have gone through this cycle 3 times and watched it. And so be encouraged. Be encouraged. I've got 11 minutes. I've got some other questions that you turned in. And again, I'm not trying to bore you. If you just get some thoughts from this, I hope it helps. Can a strong work ethic be built without a high school job? What age should I let them work? Depends on the work God designed them for. I do not believe skilled labor or manual labor work ethic is normally built any way other than working. Now, diligence in schoolwork, adherence to a tight schedule, practicing for sports, musical instruments, vocals, to a degree that might help you have a work ethic for an office job. But I still would make them work. We started our boys very young with age-appropriate tasks. They would have a work list. I'm talking like when they're 5. And at 10, we made them get a paper route, which is really your route. I mean, hours and hours and hours walking along. Ugh. People chiseling your kid out of $2 a month. I mean, it's crazy. You know, you go up there, your 12-year-old kid knocks on the door, they've delivered the paper for the month. You know, it's time to collect. It's $2. I come back. You know, and you watch your kid go to these houses 3-4 times, and they still never pay. You know what? It's all life lessons. At 15, they all were really ready to be done with paper routes, and we really didn't let them work more than 10 or 15 hours a week during school. We made them shovel church members' driveways for free. They would mow grass, all kinds of things like that. Sometimes for money. Listen, in the city, I grew up in the country and on a farm, and it's super easy to build a work ethic. I mean, everybody walks out of the house at 7, and so if you're 5, I mean, you just truck along. And whatever they're doing, you know, move that sack. You know, pick that up. I mean, you're just doing whatever. But I didn't raise our kids in the country. And so you're going to have to do this on purpose, because if your kid is lazy, it's not going to hurt them their whole life. What do I do about our younger children being exposed to more because they have older siblings? Trust God with the birth order He chose. He knew who would be exposed to more influence of siblings than the older child. Do what you can to protect your children's age-appropriate innocence. Notice I said age-appropriate. A 13-year-old should be more innocent than a 17-year-old. Listen, if we don't do age-appropriate innocence, our children can get taken advantage of. And I'm talking about taking advantage of when they're an older teenager, from other kids. You know, age-appropriate innocence. I think it's very important. In our case, because we were youth leaders, I mean, our kids were exposed to a lot. I mean, we were high school youth leaders, and back in those days, we had a teen activity every other weekend. And on weekends, we didn't have a teen activity. They came to my house on Sunday night after church. And so they were with teenagers every week from the womb. And man, they were exposed to a lot. See, what do? You trust the Lord. Work through it. You know, sometimes, you know, even if you're not in teen ministry, you know, they're going to get exposed to something that you really didn't plan on. What do? You trust the Lord. You work through it. Explain things to them. Listen, God is providentially in control of all of that. And He doesn't put anything on our plate or theirs that we can't handle. How do I manage family time with all our other time commitments? There's always more things calling for our time than we can give and keep a balanced life. Companies, sports teams, school, friends, family, and even the church, if you're not careful, can get your life out of balance. The other thing I would say is be careful as your children get older, especially, only defining family time as you sitting around the table eating dinner or playing a game. Listen, it is family time when you ride to church together. It's family time when you sit in the same room and listen to the same message. I mean, we always asked our kids, I'm talking this big, from the time they're old enough to be an adult, what'd you get out of the message? Give me one thing. Always. And when you're talking about that on the way home, that's family time. It was family time when we went to soccer practice. It was, all that's family time. And I think when we try to define family time as what it was when they were 6, I just think we grieve ourselves. And then we keep our kids from growing up. You know, the older they get, you know, they're just not going to have as much time available. And they're not supposed to. Now, we picked less demanding sports teams because I didn't care if my child was a college athlete. I think it's overrated. And so none of them achieved fully in their athletic career. I had a soccer coach one time say to me about one of our boys. He said, man, your kid is good. He should be on a select team. I said, well, as much as my athletic career could stand to be relived, I'm not going to relive it through my son. He didn't say anything else after that. Balance. Making some one-on-one time with your teenagers is good. I think it's good that they understand that you care for the family, but I think it's a separate and important thing that they know you care for them as an individual. I mean, there were times like I would just purposely leave the other 2 guys home and go to the practice with one of the kids, spend time with them. You know, man, we're busy people. I want to be a productive human being. I want to be a faithful Christian. It means busyness. And so I'm not fighting it. I'm embracing it and finding time, making time for all this. And honestly, in our case, I would say Sharon and I, excuse me just a second. Had zero of what people would call a social life other than fellowship like before or after a service until our kids were older. I mean, our social life was a teen activity and the other teen adults. By the way, I'm not that warped. We didn't get to hang out. I mean, hey, I have more important things. Did I hunger for those kind of relationships? Well, sure. But man, it's just something else that I want more. Now, how do I know if I'm raising an obedient kid versus an adult who will continue to follow God's will for their life? By the way, that's a really, really good question. My first response will be a question. Do you really want to know? See, we think we want to know the answer to that question, and then we absolutely force our kids to do everything. And so when you force them to do everything that's good, you don't really know what's in their heart. And so if you really want to know, you got to let them make more and more of their own choices as time goes on. From childhood, you need to decide you're not satisfied with external conformity. You know, when your children are young, you can make them do everything they're supposed to do. You can. People do it all the time. But that doesn't get anybody's heart. And we're not just looking for external conformity, though we want our kids to behave. We're looking for their heart to do the right thing and to be on Christ and to be making something out of themselves. And so what you got to do is when you give them choices, you watch what they do. And you'll know where their heart is. What is their attitude like? We were always looking for fruit, spiritual fruit in our boys' lives, to see if the profession of faith they made young really was in their heart. We were looking for fruit. We were looking for things like them being kind. We were looking for things like their interest in the Bible, their interest in passing out tracts, them praying when they weren't in trouble. We were looking for those things, them desiring to go to a teen activity without me making them. I mean, look for those things. And again, do you really want to know? And I don't think most of the time we actually do. Because what we want is a good kid. As long as they're doing stuff that's making everybody think that I've got a good kid and I'm parenting well. And I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of times I took it in the face for my kids. Because I let them make decisions and they made dumb ones. But if you really want to know, that's how you know. You know what I've learned is that when parents control everything in a child's life until they hit the magical number of 18, that those people who have not learned how to make decisions for themselves make an extra big amount of bad ones between about 18 and 22. Now, you may disagree with that, but I'm just saying that's what I've seen. Balance their freedom wisely. Here's the next one. Is it okay to choose for them to have no social media or let them have it with me and control over it? I think it depends on what the ages of your children are. I mean, if your kids are younger than maybe 12 or 13, I would recommend no social media. Somewhere between 13 and 16, I would consider letting them have some access to learn to control themselves. Listen, controlling yourself with games and social media is learned behavior. I think all of us in this room understand there are some adults who don't have control of themselves when it comes to social media. Have you ever, how many people in here ever look at how many hours a week you spend on your Facebook? 2? See, that's what I mean. We don't really want to know. We don't. Now, we want our kids to have it under control, but we don't want to look at how many hours we're on it. And I think it's learned behavior, and I would always let them have some with limitations and help them learn to control themselves. By the way, you've got to start with yourself. If you've always got your phone in your hand and you're responding, I've been in conversations with people and I'm talking to them and they're holding their phone like this and their phone will buzz and they look down. The phone will buzz and look down. You know, they look, wow, I wonder who liked the picture of my lunch. I am not going to fall into this trap of having everybody wonder what I liked and didn't like by whether or not I liked something on Facebook. I refuse to get myself in that rut. And so first control yourself and then help them learn to have control over it. And again, how you handle your 13-year-old and 19-year-old should be different. By the way, one of the reasons that I like, and by the time our kids were older, I mean, everybody had phones. One of the reasons I like keeping them on my phone plan and buying their phone, and by the way, I didn't buy them that good of one, is that I have control of it. I'm going to take it away. Man, real effective. Real effective. Man, I took game controllers away. I don't remember that one game they used to buy, and they could tell you that I didn't like, and they would still just keep turning around and buying. It was like $50. And I'd find it down there. They're there. Bust it all up. Probably 3 times. I don't remember what it was. Listen. So what did you do? I just bust the game up, walk out. Hey, that's how you learn to make better decisions. At some point you think, all right, we got to play for 4 hours before Dad broke it. Is that worth $50? Taking phones away is a great motivator. How do I stop from worrying whether I've done enough or am I not doing enough? If you have sincerely tried to follow Christ, if you have really tried to learn about parenting from a biblical perspective, if you've really prayed and you've tried to discipline them and have a reasonable relationship with them, trust the Lord. Trust the Lord. Man, our minds are terrible enemies. Terrible enemies. And when you've really done those things, and you've done reasonable, not perfect, reasonable, you know, when those thoughts come in your head, just say, get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Satan. And I don't have time to talk about that tonight, but dwelling on unhealthy thoughts is just the whole root of bad mental health. I've got 3 more, but I'm out of time, and I accidentally went 5 minutes over. I'm so sorry. But thank you for coming one more time. You're dismissed for the last time. Yeah, that was actually a good question. How do you help them live among peers without being weird?
How are you?
Hey, Todd, how are you, man? Good to see you, brother.
Cool.
Good. How's work today?
Bricks land on my finger.